Thursday afternoon on Radio West Fife, playing you George Michael. It's just gone 1:30, and as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be chatting to Charlotte Gordon Cumming. I've got her on the line just now. She's a singer-songwriter and an all-round talented person. Good afternoon, Charlotte. How are you?
Hello there. I'm fine, thank you very much.
Thanks for taking the time out to talk to Radio West Fife today. I know you're busy in the studio. What is it you're working on just now? Are we allowed to ask that?
You are. I'm writing or finishing a song about Mary Queen of Scots.
Superb.
And
wow.
I'm mixing it now, and it's very exciting. I'm really excited about it, actually, because I wrote the lyric many years ago when I was living out in Scotland in the Borders, and I was in Edinburgh the other day and looking up at that castle and thinking to myself, I really got to get that song done. And I have now, and it's a big, powerful song. I hope to send it up to you in a couple of weeks' time anyway.
That would be superb. I was introduced to your music by my colleague Kate Davidge, who emailed me saying, OMG David, she is brilliant, I am listening to her tracks right now, and OMG. You have quite a portfolio, Charlotte. Where did it all begin?
Well, where shall we start? Do you want songwriting?
Yeah.
Songwriting. Well, I started probably in my very, very early 20s, and I started writing poetry. And then I met a very good producer who said to me, you're not going to make any money writing poetry. I suggest you start writing song lyrics. And then he introduced me then to a few musicians in London, and from there it really grew, and I just spent time working in studios and sitting in with bands and just learning the whole process about what it is to write a song. And little by little through the years, I just grew and grew into more deeper understanding. And then I started to sing them myself. And I've never really thought of myself as having a really good voice. I've always thought that I was the songwriter who sang. But recently, it seems that people are loving my voice. And these last two albums I've made, I'm constantly surprised how beautiful people are about my voice, and it's an interesting time for me. I'm really enjoying singing. I mean, I just have a passion for songwriting.
That's quite amazing. You've picked it up just along the way. You haven't had any professional training as such, no?
Whatsoever. And I've done a lot of workshops with young people now, and I say to them, it really has to come from within first. You can go to university, you can learn all these things, but really the songs, they're all inside you, really. It's just finding the tools to get them out.
I believe you've written some music for some very famous people as well. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the Sugar Babes, I suppose, were the most recent for me in that, they went on to be a very, very successful band all over the world, really. And that was fun because I did start working with them before anything, and I gave them a track off my first album, Soul Sound. They recorded that for their first album, and, it was a big hit. So that was good in lots of ways, although I didn't really want to go down the world of the Sugar Babes, to be honest with you. It wasn't really my kind of music. So I didn't actually work with them again. But I'm always looking for the voice. I'm always looking for voices for my songs. The idea of writing the song for me is the most interesting of the experiences. It's not the performance or what comes after that. So I'm always actually looking out for the perfect voice to actually start singing all my own material.
I mean, you've pursued an amazing career here despite having had some rather serious health problems to deal with. Is that something you mind talking about?
I got poisoned 4 years ago eating mushrooms in Scotland at my family home. They were fatal mushrooms, and so we were 3 weeks in Aberdeen, very, very, very ill. But we did survive. I have, ever since that day, though, been on dialysis 3 times a week. It really stops your life.
And it sounds like it, but it's remarkable how you've managed to get on with things. Kidney illness is something actually very close to my heart. How can people assist the various agencies involved in tackling kidney problems?
Well, I'm very glad you mentioned that because people don't know enough about it. And about 6 months ago, I made a little film for a BBC show called Inside Out. about the world of dialysis because nobody really understood what the machine was, what it did, what you as a person have to go through and experience. So I made a very short film to explain that, and it has been a huge success for people in that just that awareness of really what renal failure is, what diabetes is, what dialysis is, and I'm now actually in the next month will be having a kidney transplant, and I'm going to make a little film to explain also the process of going right up to transplant and what it's like to work with live donors and the experience of altruistic donorship and also, talking on behalf of, all around NHS issues because it's been quite an experience the last 4 years going through an NHS experience.
I can only begin to imagine. Again, it's outstanding that you're doing something positive here by allowing the filming of what you're going through.
That these people, there's like a silent world. They're lost in this world where no one knows anything about them, and it's 10% of the NHS budget a year. That's a huge amount, and I think people do need to understand that also, the world of giving a kidney is a very important thing. And my husband started to help with a charity called Give a Kidney. You only need one. And that's a fantastic charity that started now because it's all to help altruistic donors, people who want to come forward, help their family if there are kidney issues, etc. And it doesn't act now, since the laws were changed in, I think it was 2004, that you don't have to be a family member, you can be a friend or somebody who just literally wants to help somebody else, another human being.
Yeah, an amazing gesture. So back to your younger days, Charlotte. You were born in the northeast of Scotland. Can you tell us a bit about that kind of time in your life, growing up in that area?
Yes, I was born just outside Forres, and my family home is called Altar. And my family had been living there for 800 years or something in that part of Scotland. And it was the most wonderful place for me to grow up because I was just a child of nature and I was outside all day, and I feel that my childhood has huge resonance in my music now because of the big landscapes that I create really in my music, and it's all really from the eyes of a child, looking at those huge great moors and forests of Scotland and as a child, it's just the big skies and big landscapes. I've always hungered after that sort of landscape my whole life. I'm okay in a city, but I'm much happier out in nature, really.
Out and about in the midst of it all. Anyway, we're going to play a track from your first album just now, the first track, Soul Sound. When did you actually write that one, Charlotte?
I can't remember.
We will just play the track just now then.
Radio West Fife.
Just fantastic from Charlotte Gordon Cumming's album Mindwalking. That was Soul Sound. Charlotte, you were talking just before we played that track there about your time in Scotland. Obviously life moves on. You're living down south now. Your house has been described online as a medieval monk's dwelling. That must be hugely inspiring.
Well, it's a very unusual building. I must say, it is a 14th century monastic building, and it's very small inside. And for instance, our sitting room, which has got a fireplace in it, but what used to be the altar, and above it there's a fresco, a 14th century fresco, and it's sort of mad living under that sort of history. But it is a home, and it's thick stone walls, small windows, but the lovely gardens. We've got lovely old woodland and the river at the bottom of the garden, and there are things like that are just magical, really, and
it sounds like something from a fairy tale.
Again, yeah.
You're no stranger to media, Charlotte. Indeed, you mentioned the BBC earlier on. When did you actually get into that, writing for the BBC?
Well, I was asked to do it. I mean, it was something that just evolved when I was poorly, and I realized that a lot of sick people just didn't have the extra oomph it takes to, make a challenge, really, to discuss things, to bring things open. And I felt I could do that for them. And I spoke to quite a few patients before I did it, and I just felt that I could be a voice for them, and that's really how it happened. I met a wonderful producer down here, and she wanted to film it, and so that's how it happened. And it's not something that I move towards at all. I mean, I think I would probably be a lot more famous if I indulged into the world of celebrity and everything, but I absolutely don't. I prefer to be pruning my roses and concentrating really on just writing beautiful songs and not really getting involved in all the hullabaloo of that side of it, really.
Talking about the hype and so on to your family now. Your husband is also a very well-known name, isn't he?
Yes, Nicholas Evans, yeah.
Now, I know that name and I can't think why.
Well, he's an author, and his most famous book was called The Horse Whisperer. And then
explains.
that was made into a film. And he's written since then, four books since The Horse Whisperer. And he does very well.
I would imagine that we have several people listening just now who might like to follow in your footsteps. Do you have any advice for them at all?
Absolutely. Follow your dreams. I had so many things that were working against me when I decided to set out to be a singer-songwriter, but I stuck to it. You won't make money for years unless you're very lucky. If you really want something in life, I really do believe that you can go and find it. And if your heart is right with the music, if your heart is really in the right place, the songs will come. And it shows time and time again. You have a guy like Ed Sheeran who comes up with such a beautiful, simple song, and it goes to everybody's hearts, and bang, you're there. And there are lots of people who write all different types of music and are very successful, but I think if you're on my road, which is the singer-songwriter road, you've just got to believe that you can do it. And if you can believe, then everybody else starts to follow.
It seems that there's just too much to cover in a short interview on the phone, Charlotte. So
well, I'm going to come up and see you all, I hope.
Oh,
I'm going to have my transplant, and I'm going to get better and stronger, and then I'm going to come up to Scotland. I'm going to bring my car, and I'm just going to move from county to county, and I really, selling my Mary Queen of Scots song to you all, and, just come and do the rounds in the radio shows, because
we're
I
looking
love
forward to
doing
that.
them.
That would be brilliant to have you along here in the studio. Could we maybe even twist your arm and have you do a little bit of a live set?
Absolutely.
Oh, that would be amazing. So where online can people learn a bit more about your work, or indeed buy your music?
Well, I'm quite on SoundCloud. All my material's all sold on iTunes. I have a website, charlottegordoncumming.com. But if you Google Charlotte Gordon Cumming,
a wealth of information will appear.
It does. And YouTube, there are things on YouTube. I've enjoyed the internet. It's been wonderful for me, because as an artist, a mature artist, it's very hard to get, on radio play and all these things. There are so many obstacles. But I found with the internet and online, people have embraced my music because they hear the music. It's not about profile or me, it's about the song, and that's what I love about the internet, because people are beginning to find me.
So, all about the music. Charlotte, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. I know you're busy in the studio. We're going to play one more of your tracks from your other album, The Brave Songs. I think you suggested Move Away, yeah? Move
Away, or There's a Sigh. There's a lovely song I wrote called There's a Sigh with Paul Buchanan, from the Blue Nile.
All right.
So who I believe he's got an album out at the moment, actually.
All right. So which track do you reckon?
I love There's a Sigh.
There's a Sigh. Okie dokie. We shall play that right now. And thanks again, Charlotte. Take care now. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Thursday afternoon with David Fortune. Radio West Fife.